Good morning. So, I know it's been a while since I actually over a month now since I posted a video in regards to my personal beliefs and my spirituality that I've spoken to in different ways, and that Kelly and I have posted to it being winter solstice today. I thought would be even more important to take a look at what it is I believe and how it is that I believe, and what it is that we follow. And I think there's a lot of difficulty explaining to people because it's not as dogmatic as people like to have. Most organized religions are incredibly dogmatic and I guess you could say scripture based on writings that are very defined and clear cut. And it's a way to control. And in all honesty, it's a way to control people. If you have something that they have to follow, that they cannot argue, that they cannot interpret, even though people do reinterpret scripture from pretty much every religion. We, however, don't have strict scripture to follow, and it's one of the beauties of being who we are. So, once again, I have to say this is not something that I have read. This is not something that I have joined in terms of a community or group of people. This is how I've lived pretty much my whole life. And a lot of it comes from memory, from my youngest days, having memories of things that some told me was not okay to express, and others being frightened of what I was remembering and expressing, as well as having people feel very uncomfortable in distance and say that doesn't exist, that what you're talking about is not real, that you had to have gotten it from somewhere. But if you've never seen something and you're not yet really reading, but you recognize it, except that to you it looks old and not the way you remember it, that says a lot. Just throwing that out there. Certain skills just coming natural that you just have. You can't explain. People, oh, who taught you that? Where'd you learn that? Well, you had to have read that in a book. You have to, like, I go way back in a lot of things, and I'm thinking about a lot of things in this lifetime of memories that I have had, and skills that I have developed over time, that the first time I did it, it felt like I'd always done it and felt like I'd always known. So that's a part of one of the biggest tenets of primal Celtic spirituality. And I count myself as a primal Celt. So we're talking pre-Roman, pre-Greek, the very early days, as we traveled and set up settlements and towns all across Europe. Where my earliest memories are primal Celtic. So there were skills that I had learned that I remembered, and that certain things would trigger, just go and do something and try it. And it worked. And people were like, oh, where'd you learn how to do that? It's something that made sense to me. And that's part of the difficulty, is when it just makes sense. And if you don't understand where it's coming from, it can be very confusing and can be isolating, because people will kind of alienate from you, because they either, when you tell them it's just something that I understood or I just knew how to do, they'll call you a liar. And I've had that. Sometimes even people close to you who will think you're nuts, and no, you're a liar. You got that from somewhere. You watched a movie, or you watched a show, or you read a book, or sure, some things, those are also triggers where you're like, crap, I remember that, and then you go and do it. Some things you just do, and it's like you always did it. And so I've lived much of my life that way. And through exploration of what I remembered and exploring further, allowed me to have more confidence and more comfort in believing what I believe in, and continuing to exist. And part of that process for me was discovering a, I guess if you will, like I've always considered a spirit, a family spirit, or I guess if you want, for other people's sakes, a deity that made sense and that encompassed all the things that you felt safest and most comfortable with, and just made sense. And over time, sometimes a new deity that made sense. And like these are things that come with time. And then opening your heart and your soul enough and dropping your ego enough to allow other members of your family, your close family, your wife, your children, to say, hey, this calls to me. And that's what I'm going to follow. So I'm a follower of Hearn, and that's just the name I use to refer to him. And there are other names out there for him, Cernunnos and all sorts of things, depending on where you came from, right? But he's my father, and I am his son, and so I am his servant, and I am his follower. But I'm not his servant in terms of serving him like a slave. I seek to protect his spaces and the places that are sacred to him. And in that, I serve him. I serve him by trying to be a steward of the wild places and trying to speak openly about protecting those places. I've always been a lunar follower. And at times we've referred to that wonderful silver disc in the sky as Luna. And now as Arianrhod, who is the Welsh deity of the moon. Her name literally meaning silver wheel. And so she's somebody else that I follow, and she's my mother. And I've referred to the two of them as mom, dad, mother, father in the songs that I write as a druid and as a shamanic bard, if you will. I've always been more comfortable with shamanic bard, but my best friend likes to use the word druid in reference to me, and so I've learned to be more relaxed about it. But I've never referred to myself that way, because immediately when you say that, people think Dungeons and Dragons, and they think all the horrible movies that are out there regarding us, and they think about different groups, and I've never been a part of a group. I've always had a hard time being a joiner. Wonder why. Kelly has described a feeling of kinship with Danu. And that's beautiful. And when she first mentioned it, it was like I feel myself kind of pull back, and then I realized, no, I have to let my ego go and be like, yeah, that's beautiful. She feels a strength and a calling towards Danu. And my eldest son, Aiden, said Caradwyn calls to him, and I thought that was beautiful too, because Caradwyn is also a misunderstood goddess, is one of the elder goddesses, but very misunderstood and retranslated by early Christianity into a villain, when really she was not. She was a beautiful goddess of transformation and change and inspiration, right? And her cauldron, or her womb, was the first transformative space in legend, right? And so that's wonderful, considering my son is trans and he's becoming the man he wants to be, and Caradwyn is guiding him. So that's the ways that we follow these deities. That's the way that we cherish them. So when we go out to visit our sacred spaces, I sing songs of welcome, songs of arrival. Our great song of arrival, Crezo Adrev, is in Welsh. All my songs I write in English and then I translate to Welsh, and I only sing them in Welsh. For me, it has more power and more identification for me. I identify with it. It's just how I am. But Crezo Adrev means welcome home. And so that's our song of arrival to our sacred space. And I sing it as we arrive. And we explore, and I discovered this beautiful giant piece of quartz that we call the heart of the mountain. And so I leave it there, and I wrote a song about discovering the heart of the mountain, and singing and writing a song of blessing for my best friend on his birthday, and a healing lullaby for my youngest when she was ill, and a love song for my beautiful wife. Like this is part of the inspiration of being a shamanic bard, of being a druid, is that you're inspired by these things. And so for me, I spent over 30 years at a level of initiation where I was so deeply focused on the spiritual, I lost sight of the physical, of the beauty of in all the tiny little living things. And I always thought I had it, but I think that's why I didn't advance. And it's not advancing, like I said, through a group, through a website, through anybody. It was spiritually and my deity allowing me the chance to move forward through vision questing, through a very powerful vision quest in which he came to me when I finally spoke his name the way I needed to. But once I was able to make that transition to the next level, from initiate to the next level, and become a singer of the song, of the song of nature, of everything, of the cosmos, all the little things started to appear, dragonflies and little frogs and snapping turtles and birds and snakes, and everything just started to appear to us. Coyotes and otters and a wolverine, and those are blessings, and we take those blessings. Falcons everywhere. These are the signs and the blessings that we take, and we enjoy them and we live them. So yeah, that's part of how it is we live our beliefs, and part of what it is I believe. It's not so simple that I can describe it in very simple dogmatic terms. It's a flow. It is a flow that we go through as with our beliefs, and how it is that we live our lives through our beliefs. So it's not something that can be written down in a book. It's not something that can be taught as scripture. It's literally a flow, a spiritual flow, a psychological flow, an egotistical flow, and a physical flow with that. And so my name changed from the very first name that I remembered as a teen that came to me. And so recently it came to me again as I changed to this next stage as the singer of the song, and my spiritual name became Kiddish, which is Welsh for hawk quill. Kiddish Cynwyr Igan. Sorry, Kiddish Cynwyr Igan. Kiddish is hawk quill, singer of the song, because I'm singing Hearn's song and Arianrhod's song of the world. And that song is that vibration that flows through all things, that carries our souls. So that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, if you will, of how we believe and what we believe. And the songs that we sing are ways of communicating with our deities and the world, the physical and spiritual world around us. And I've had many moments where, when my beliefs were challenged, my deities came to me and reminded me that they were there, and that they have me, and that they are holding me. And I'll get into those in future videos. But for now, I come to you as Kiddish Cynwyr Igan, hawk quill, singer of the song. And I come to you without ego. I am nothing greater or better than anyone else. I am simply a man who believes. My faith is strong. My faith is true. And anyone who questions it because I don't have a book for them to read, that's too bad, because you're questioning what my soul already knows is true for me. Anybody can believe what they want, but this is what's true for me, and it's what I've lived across multiple lifetimes. And if you ever want to sit and have a coffee and chat, just send me a line. I would love to. It would be my pleasure. Have a wonderful winter solstice. This is a very special day. It's a very magical day for us, and we will celebrate it the best that we can. And I hope that you do too. Happy winter solstice to you. Or Hoilu Hapus.